Very excited to be here as part of this session. And to introduce myself, my name is Dheeraj Nayal. I'm the head of corporate development at DevOps Institute, and very excited to be part of it as part of DevOps Institute. So, to provide a brief overview about DevOps Institute, so we are a global professional member association with one mission to advance the human elements of DevOps, because as you saw in the first slide, that we believe it's not the technology, it is always the human who poses the real challenges in terms of transformation. So really looking forward to provide some insights about hybrid skills in the new digital age as part of it, because we bring in global overview about the industry with our global footprint with more than 300 plus industry partners, and have helped various organizations and enterprises in their transformation journey. And sure enough, NTUC LearningHub is our elite partner in Singapore, helping various enterprises and professionals to upskill, reskill in their transformation journey as well. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce uh, our CEO, Jane Grohl, here, who will be presenting this topic and share it with you all.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jane Grohl. I'm Chief Executive Officer of DevOps Institute. I'm really delighted and honored to be with you today to share some of the research and data that DevOps Institute collects about which skills are taking us into the digital age and which skills are considered must have, nice to have, and not as important. I think Jocelyn before me did a really great job of sharing about agile and waterfall and DevOps and some of the roles and skills that are necessary as we move into our what I call transformation age. So a little bit about me. Yes, this is what I really look like in real life. I'm a cartoon avatar. I am co-founder and CEO of the DevOps Institute. I come from the ITIL community. I spent many years running an ITIL trading company. I'm a former ITIL instructor, ITIL service manager. But I think more importantly, prior to that, I was an IT ops director across many vertical markets and across many years. I'm not going to tell you how many years. I get the honor of speaking frequently at virtual, live, international events. Very excited to be here in Singapore this week. I'm also the author of the Agile Service Management Guide. So let's start talking about some of the trending practices. And if you listen to Jocelyn's presentation before us, I think she did a really great job of sharing what some of those practices are and why they're so important. And again, as Jocelyn pointed out, we started out with waterfall, and years ago, waterfall software development was the most common way that software was built, right? Starting from an idea and kind of stepping down the waterfall until the end. And I love the pizza analogy because you didn't know what the pizza actually looked like or tasted until you got to the bottom of the waterfall. The problem with the waterfall is it was, kind of easy to step down, but it was very slippery trying to come back up. And so things went into production without really an opportunity to make corrections until after it had been released. And so then came Agile, and Agile with smaller iterations, with more frequent opportunities to test, to deploy, to remediate if necessary, smaller self-organizing teams, gave software developers and gave the business, again, more agility in terms of how software was developed. And again, I think that's become a very, very common practice today. The problem with Agile is when the code came out of the software development teams, there were a lot of delays downstream. So once it came out, the infrastructure teams, the security teams, QA, and other preparatory practices, getting the software ready for production were delayed. And so it might have been a 2-week sprint in Agile, and it might have been a 2-month downstream set of activities because many of those activities were manual. So now comes DevOps, right? Grew up very organically, actually a Twitter handle, gentleman out of Belgium kind of coined the term. And now, fast forward 12 years later, it's more of a worldwide phenomenon. But DevOps is really about how do we take the code from agile, how do we bring it into production, and how do we automate a lot of the activities and move those activities earlier in the cycle so we're not waiting to the bottom of the waterfall before we find out that the code has failed a test or because there's other things that need to be done. DevOps is very much as much cultural as it is technical. But again, we were so busy automating the business, automating society that we kind of ignored automating ourselves. And so again, I think DevOps really looks at these CI/CD pipelines as the ability to optimize automation for the work we do so that we can go faster and more frequent. And then next is now site reliability engineering. So again, I'm an old IT ops director, and DevOps kind of stopped at deployment and started again. And people like me went, well, now what? Right now the code goes into production. What kind of practices do we have that align with that? As well, many of you are familiar with ITIL incident management or change management. Friends at Google wrote a book several years ago on how they keep their environment reliable and secure. There have been some subsequent books about that. But SRE, Site Reliability Engineering, is really growing very quickly as a set of operational practices that also optimize automation, but also look at proactive ways to reduce toil. You know what toil is? It's that manual work that nobody wants to do. And so these four together, right? Waterfall, moving into agile, working with DevOps. If we really look at kind of agile, DevOps, and site reliability engineering, you really have three elements of a self-regulating software delivery system, but they break down into a wide range of skills. I like to think of them as three pieces of the same puzzle. One without the other only gets you so far, but these three together, and they're very lightweight, right? They're not meant to be very heavyweight or bureaucratic sets of practices. They're very lightweight. But there is a range of skills that have emerged out of these three kind of process categories that really impact human transformation. So some of you may be familiar now with cloud native, right? A lot of organizations are migrating to the cloud or taking on hybrid environments where they have some on premises and they have some applications that are developed for the cloud. Now came observability. You may have heard that, observability is kind of the next stage of monitoring where we have the opportunity to observe what's actually happening real time in these applications. And again, in relationship with monitoring, we can be proactive and reactive in terms of the telemetry that's used to manage these applications. There's a growing community of open source products out there to help your automation, value stream management, really looking at how we take all of these practices and what does it mean to deliver value instead of just delivering product. And value stream management is a set of practices that have grown as well. Chaos engineering came out of Netflix. Again, I'm not sure if you've heard of it or not, but they actually intentionally introduced chaos into their environment, right? They have little pieces of code that randomly break things, and it gives them a chance to practice and master how they handle incidents. Again, a little bit scary for some organizations, but gaining a lot of interest at the enterprise level. And then container orchestration, you might be hearing about Kubernetes, right? How we take containerized applications where everything associated with that application is really created into a container. And then how do we manage or orchestrate those containers as well? And then there's all the ops, right? There's DevSecOps, where security is now everybody's responsibility. AI ops, machine learning ops, model ops, data ops, Git ops. There's beer ops, there's hug ops, there's ops, right? It can make a human IT professional a little bit crazy trying to figure out what all these ops are. Regardless of everything else I just shared with you, technology is great, process is great, but digital transformation is going to require human transformation. DevOps is everybody's responsibility, whether you're operations, whether you're a developer, whether you're an infrastructure engineer or security engineer. DevOps is just a recipe, right? Unlike some of these other practices, there isn't a single body of knowledge around DevOps. It is a combination, or I like to think of it as a recipe, where each of the things I just shared are an ingredient in your recipe for how development, operations, and security are going to be unified for the benefit of the business and to be able to deliver better value to your organization. So since 2019, DevOps Institute conducts an annual community research project known as Upskilling IT. We're really very delighted that the community contributes. We get about 2,000 respondents globally every year. We literally just closed the survey for the 2023 report. And then Evelyn Ehrlich, formerly of Forrester, is our chief research director. She takes all of the data that we collect, and then she does an analysis, does interviews with others. There's a lot of deep data in our annual upskilling report. I'll show you at the end how you can download the report for free. This year in 2022, for the first time, we did something different, and we took the data and created 4 reports. There's a global report, and then there's 3 other reports that are regional, including the APAC regional report. And I'm going to share some of the data from the APAC specific report. And again, I'll give you the opportunity to download all of the reports for free so that you'll be able to do some comparison. But the goal of the report is to really look at different domains of skills and then to help identify for you, the IT human, which skills are now considered must have, nice to have, and not as important. Is it going to be precise? Somewhat. Again, depending on your goals, depending on your business's needs, depending on your current role or your future role, then hopefully you'll be able to take some of this and guide you and your organization into a better, faster, and more digital future. So key findings at the very highest level. Across the globe, there are insufficient IT resource skills. 40% of the survey respondents said that resource and skill shortage is one of their top 3 challenges today, which means there isn't enough skilled talent out there. Many organizations are addressing their talent debt. Inside their organization, there are more upskilling programs that are available. There's a recognition that technology without humans will not accelerate the transformation that's necessary as we move into this decade. So the good news for you as an IT professional is you have a tremendous opportunity to be able to grow and diversify your skills, because organizations across the world, particularly here in the Asia Pacific region, are in desperate need of skills. Upskilling is a professional and an organizational imperative. We can take you to every course that NTUC LearningHub has available to you. The organization can provide funding and resource and time for you, but only you can learn. And so you have to be in charge of your own professional growth, hopefully with the support of your organization, that there is an imperative on their part to give you the time, to give you the capability, whether it's peer-to-peer learning, whether it's formal classroom training, or otherwise. When we look at the top 5 must-have skill capabilities, it's process and framework skills, human skills. You might think of those as soft skills. We think they're hard, so we call them human skills. Your technical skills, your automation skills, and your leadership skills. So just to sum that up, we need you to continuously learn, to continuously skill. We need your organizations to make that an organizational imperative. And certainly we can't address technical debt if we're not addressing the talent debt. So again, keep that in mind as we kind of go through some of the data that came out of the report. So the top 3 challenges in Asia Pacific IT organizations, as I just said, insufficient skills or resources. But again, take that with some budget and funding issues, and then lay on top of that the fact that there's a lot of technical debt and the avoidance of technical debt. So again, we have technical debt from our past where we just didn't finish all of the things that needed to be done in favor of speed to market, but now that's catching up with us. But again, 45% of the respondents, insufficient skills and resources, and that kind of feeds into the, okay, we don't have sufficient skills, but we also don't have good budgets, and certainly we don't know what to do with all this technical debt. What skills are being recruited? Here's kind of an interesting shift over the years past. Historically, those that were being recruited were software engineers or security engineers, and certainly that is true. But this year we saw a big shift to recruitment of operations engineering. I mentioned site reliability engineering. You'll see that in a bit, but that is operations engineering, that recognizing that keeping environments stable, reliable, resilient, secure is essential, and finding the engineers that can help that, particularly in more complex heritage environments, are important. Of course, developers are being recruited. There's no doubt about that. But leadership, right? Leaders who lead a different way, who are comfortable with Agile, are comfortable with DevOps, are comfortable with, again, transformational leadership are in demand as well. And again, along with that, you're a leader, regardless of what role you're in, right? But looking at some of the ranks at the executive level as well. So in the past, there was the term no ops. And so no ops kind of to me meant no job, no respect, right? And now, fast forward into 2022, and operations engineers are actually at just about 60% of the recruitment efforts. I personally find that very gratifying. So when we look at the skill capabilities, or what we call the skill clusters, the data from this region said that the number one set of skill capabilities that are required are process and framework skills. As I said, they're not necessarily formal or bureaucratic process. So if you're groaning, I'm sorry to hear that. A lot of the processes today are much more lightweight than, say, processes of the past. But that came in at the top set of skills, because you can't have good automation. You can't have good technology. You can't have good leadership if you don't have at least consistent process across the different aspects of the software delivery lifecycle or the IT supply chain. Human skills, year over year over year, this is our fourth year of doing this, have always come in the top three set of skills. Because being a better collaborator, being a good systems thinker, having good empathy, right, good communication skills is also essential if we're going to unify the activities from the development teams into infrastructure and then beyond production. So we need to be able to groom those skills, right? We can't necessarily assume that they're natural, or that you're either born with them or you're not born with them. There are techniques and there are specific skills that are more essential as we move into this future. Obviously, technology and automation skills are essential. They're not exactly the same. We'll look at that. And then leadership skills came in equal to automation skills and pretty close to technical skills as well. So again, as I said, each of you are actually leaders, particularly in self-organizing teams. So we're going to break that down a little bit further. So when we look at process and framework skills, it came in equal to technical skills in this region. And again, it was kind of a little bit of a surprise, right? But really, maybe not so much. You can't have good technology if you don't have good process. And the problem in IT, and I said I've been in IT a long time, is that we have process. We just don't have similar or unified or collective process. So, developers are using Agile, and so they have different tools, different vocabulary, DevOps, ITIL. I mean, IT, we love our frameworks, and new frameworks come out every single year. And every one of us think that new framework is going to be the magic solution to solve it all. And the reality is we need to align our process and our framework skills instead of trying to find the perfect one. There is no perfect one. That's my hint for the day. There is no perfect one. But your technical skills, we are technologists. And so we need to be able to keep our technical skills current. We need to be able to understand not only, kind of that change fatigue of what's the flavor of the year, but what technology is going to support the goals of the organization. And again, that feeds into a little bit of value stream management. And then look at the bottom three. They came in pretty equal, right? Leadership skills, human skills, automation skills, each came in as 56%. So not one more than the other, right? It's a combination of all of these. And what this data is telling you is that you need to have just enough of these skills, right? You have a core competency. That's how you identify yourself or what your role is. But you need to look at process skills. You need to look at leadership skills. Do an assessment on your human skills. Are you a good communicator? Do you have conflict management concerns? There's a lot of skills that can be groomed there. And then, of course, staying current with automation as well. So breaking it down even a little bit further, which framework and processes are essential? DevOps and DevSecOps were grouped together. So when DevOps first emerged, and I was involved in the DevOps space pretty early on, the security folks went, wait, what about us? Right? And so there became SecDevOps, DevSecOps, right? SecOps, right? DevSecOps has kind of won in this, but what that means is that security is everybody's responsibility, that it's no longer just something that's abdicated to a security team. We need our security professionals, but we also need to embed security testing very early in the life cycle. We need to understand what it means to secure a piece of code, and as it moves further and further into the cycle and into production, that there's consistent awareness of security, particularly in a very cyber risk world that we live in today. Everybody should understand Agile. I'm a Scrum Master. I'm not a developer. Understanding the core concepts behind Agile, the meaning of iterations, of being able to what a sprint is, what a blameless retrospective is. Again, very, very easy to digest and fairly easy to learn, not so easy to practice, but fairly easy to learn. And then design thinking and systems thinking. We've been trained in IT to kind of keep the blinders on so that we only do what we do and we let other people do what they do, but we don't really have to pay attention. And what we're asking IT professionals today is to be able to think of the whole system end to end, and what your part of that system is and how you interact with and interface with other parts of the environment as well. I mentioned site reliability engineering and value stream management. Again, very, very essential to operations for SRE. You can read the Google SRE book for free online, DevOps Institute at the end. I'll tell you, we have some certifications around SRE. And then value stream management, really understanding that flow from an idea into and beyond the consumption of that product or that software, and how value is created. So it isn't just outcomes, it isn't flow charts, it's really understanding what is the definition of value, how is it created. This comes from Lean. What kind of is in that value stream that we can overcome? And mapping the value stream and then managing the value stream is pretty essential if you want to go fast, right? It feels like it maybe is going to slow you down, but it isn't, because once you understand the flow and you look at where there are constraints to that flow and start to overcome them, then it actually helps everyone go faster. So these were considered the top 5 framework and process skills. And so when we kind of look at them, there is kind of a pattern towards self-organization. There is a pattern towards more lightweight process. There is a pattern that is very human. It's how you think and behave as much as it is, what you do on development or what kind of products we're going to use. So again, this came in number 1 in this region as top must-have skills. On the technical skills side, not a surprise that cloud computing is at the top of the must-have technical skills in this region and around the world, right? The migration to the cloud, the pandemic pushed us further and further into that, particularly as organizations had to take on more remote work. Platforms, AWS, GCP, Azure, right, are seeing amazing growth. But also how we operate in a cloud platform, cloud native, looking at continuous integration, continuous delivery in a cloud environment is pretty important for everybody to understand, because your job will change as your organization moves further and further into the cloud. Most organizations today are more hybrid, where they've moved some of their products and services into the cloud, maybe keep some of it on-prem. Be interesting to see in 5 to 10 years whether we're completely in the cloud and organizations release their on-site data centers. Security, again, not a big surprise, right? There are new risks that are introduced every single day, particularly in regulated environments. And so again, as soon as we think we have security accomplished, there's a new risk that's introduced, and it's trying to stay at least current, if not ahead, of the risks that are out there. Cloud security is a discipline that's growing and growing and growing, and I think that's something that's going to continue to be a part of it. As we said, DevSecOps, everybody has to learn security, at least at the awareness level, basic security testing. And then, of course, we have our security engineers and our security professionals to look at those threats and vulnerabilities. Modern cloud architectures, again, understanding the platforms, but also understanding the architectures that are associated with the cloud, continuous delivery, continuous integration, pipelines. What does an enterprise architecture look like? Are there different architectures that are associated with it, equal to container orchestration, right? Because again, containerization in the cloud is almost essential, and that's where practices like Kubernetes have just risen very, very quickly as must-have skills. And then finally, application technologies, new ways to develop applications, low code, no code, citizen development is again, trending very, very quickly. Understanding, again, cloud native, how applications are built for the cloud as opposed to migrated to the cloud. Application performance management technologies. So again, if you kind of break this down for you as an IT professional, if you're a developer, do you need to understand all of this? Yes. Do you need to be an expert in all of this? No. But you need to understand what I call, say, just enough, right? Just enough is a very agile term. Just enough to be able to have a broad range of understanding, particularly as you're building your code. If you're an infrastructure engineer, again, you need to know security. You certainly need to know what a cloud platform is going to look like. The skills gap within the IT enterprise today is very interesting as well, because really the top two are very interesting. Cognitive skills, your ability to analyze, right? To take the logs, the data. Jocelyn's org chart showed a very specific team for data analysis. Everybody has to have these cognitive skills that help us really distill what we're learning as we're observing the performance of the application, as we're analyzing the data that's coming back, helps us to be better. And that's pretty equal to your technology skills and even your process and framework skills. So again, do you need to be a data scientist? No. Do you need to be able to pay a little attention to the data that's coming back, the fast feedback loops that are coming back, and be able to develop a high-level understanding of that? Absolutely. And then we see leadership and human skills sitting right underneath that, because leadership is a human skill, right? It's taking other people to the next step, right? It's grooming them, nurturing them, guiding them, again, regardless of whatever your role is. Human skills, we don't have, remember, these are gaps, right? These are gaps. human skills, making sure that we understand how to be better collaborators, how to feel comfortable sharing our knowledge, psychological safety, things like that. And then automation skills, of course, understanding the current automation, but avoiding some of the automation of the day kind of skills. But there are not enough of these skills available to the organizations today. Business skills, digital skills came in sort of at the bottom of that. So this is what the organization is looking for, right? Either whether they're going to grow their staffs internally or whether they're going to look for outside talent. These are the skills that have been identified as being needed in order to fulfill the promise of digital transformation. So if we kind of just look at the top 15 DevOps skills, and again, remember DevOps is just an umbrella. You could call them agile skills, you can call them site reliability engineering skills. I would call these the top 15 IT skills that are going to take us into the future. You notice they don't fit into just one category or one domain. They really cross over all of them. Right? We have CI/CD, and then we have problem solving. We have continuous testing, and then we have diplomacy, right? So you as a IT professional, what we call a DevOps human, your skills have to be hybrid. Your skills have to be broad. And what does that mean? That means you have to be curious about these different domains. Again, you don't have to develop deep competency. Right? You may find an area that you want to develop deep competency because it appeals to either what your organization needs or for your career path. But you need to be a hybrid DevOps human because each of these skills creates an ecosystem that is going to advance your career and support your current and maybe your future business's goals, right? Security and trust. I just find it so interesting that when we took, and remember, I didn't make this up, this comes from our data, right? That when we looked at our data and said, okay, if we really had to pick the top skills that the global world is telling us, it really is a combination of a lot of different skills, right? It's not just your technical skills, and your organization is not going to succeed just through automation or adding more open source or whatever. You as a DevOps human are going to be the primary driver for digital transformation. You have to be willing to explore. So if I leave you with anything today, again, I'm going to tell you how to get this report for free. You have to be open and willing. Now, people like me have been in DevOps for 12 years and been IT for a lot of years. I'm not going to tell you how many years. We could be a little stuck in our ways. We could be a little bit fatigued by every year there just seems to be a new framework or a new buzzword or a new technology, and it could be just overwhelming. So as I leave you, what I want to encourage you to do is, first of all, start small and learn as you go. I don't know what technology is going to be prominent 5 years from now. Probably hasn't even been invented yet, right? When I was a young girl, they said we'd have electric cars, and it's taken quite a while for us to get electric cars. So I don't know what it is, but I do know that if you kind of build a mentality and your organization supports continuous learning, curiosity, innovation, those are human skills. Today, even with AI, we don't have that same critical thinking skills that are necessary for the future. Maybe you invent the next big application that's going to transform the world. But it's not going to happen if you're not open and you're not willing and you're not curious. Right? So feel comfortable doing that. It is purely human. And by the way, you may fail along the way. And one of the core principles of each of these practices, Agile, DevOps, and Site Reliability Engineering, is failure is an opportunity to learn. There's the concept of fail fast. Nobody wants to fail. But again, it's that curiosity, that's willingness to experiment, I think, that takes you to the next level. So as I said, I promised I would tell you how to get the report. If you go up to devopsinstitute.com, one download and you get access to all the reports. It's pretty deep data, a lot of graphs. There's some interviews that are associated with it. The global report really federates all of the data that we collected and looks at it, across the entire world. And then we have regional reports that took the data and broke it down into what the respondents from a particular region might have collected. So we do have an APAC one if you're interested in the Americas and EMEA, but you download one so you get access to all of them perfectly free. So I encourage you to do that. The new report for 23 will come out in April. We just literally closed the survey this past week. So stay tuned, and then you'll be able to compare your year over year whether that makes some sense at all. DevOps Institute, working with our colleagues at NTUC, offers a wide range of certifications, including site reliability engineering at 2 levels, DevSecOps at 2 levels. Jocelyn mentioned DevOps Leader. Now there's a value stream management. Next year there'll be an observability foundation as well. So if you're interested in exploring certification, I highly encourage you to do that. This is very portable knowledge that regardless of the technology or the environment, this knowledge is really helps you grow and apply it no matter what environment you're in. And then DevOps Institute has a lot of resources available to you on the SRE side. Our second research project we do every year is the Global SRE Pulse, really trying to understand the state of SRE adoption. We do an event every month known as Skill Up Days, and we pick a different topic every month to really kind of just hone in on. And they will start up again in January, again, free to attend, and we do them every single month. We have something known as skill books, which are chapters written by different thought leaders, case studies. And then we recently introduced Skill Up IT Learning, which is an online learning platform that is subscription-based and has a lot of education that isn't certification and some of the emerging topics as well. So join the community. It's free. Explore all the resources. Again, our mission is to advance the humans of DevOps, and I'm really proud of my team because they take that mission very, very seriously. And on that note, I say thank you. I don't know if there's any questions.
So I'll just take a couple of minutes to talk about a couple of things which Jane has mentioned as part of the extension of it.
You still need the presentation, or do you want to?
Yeah, it's a couple of slides. It's here. Awesome. So thanks again, Jane, for sharing so much of information, talking about different set of global trends and how it aligns with the regional trends as well. And I think here we have a great group of L&D and HR pioneers who are shaping the transformation, the upskilling, reskilling transformation in their respective organization. And that's why this set of information is so much of useful, because specifically since the pandemic, the ways of working has really evolved. We are talking about new ways of working. So if we talk about the future of work, which has also been designated by the part of World Economic Forum in the jobs for today and tomorrow as well. And we are talking about actual jobs, the jobs which are transforming the enterprises. And it becomes so vital for L&D leaders, for the training programs manager to be aligned with how the industry is moving. And that's how what Senthil was mentioning earlier, and Jocelyn was mentioning about when we see ICT as a whole and how we align it with the global and regional economy makes a lot of sense and lot of importance for the businesses, for the organization as such. Because if we look at the report from the Global Economic Forum, along with the emerging jobs report from LinkedIn, you will see majority of these roles, and these are all actual job roles. We are not even talking about domain specific. If we'll do a simple job search on LinkedIn or Indeed side, you will find the maximum amount of jobs are in these domains. So that's why DevOps, SRE, we are talking about Agile now, an extension as part of the overall domain, and security remains as a vital domain for any of the upskilling, reskilling program for the L&D professionals, and I would say even for the CXOs to consider as part of the transformation strategy. So that is why if we talk about overview of what is required in terms of the hybrid skills to be evolved as part of the hybrid ways of working. So these are the key subsets under different domains, right? From automation skills, human skills, technology skills, function skills, and process and framework skills, and tease up with the different verticals which we have planned as part of this virtual open house in terms of infrastructure, development, cybersecurity, project management, best practices. Because if you see, everything is kind of imbibing together as part of this framework. So hopefully this provides some set of useful guidance for the L&D leaders, for the HR leaders, in order to take back as part of a hybrid skills framework, as part of the new ways of working for the industry, because world is definitely moving fast from an I-shaped professional to a T-shaped professional to a pie-shaped professional, and now as per the current industry standard, which is a E-shaped professional. But having spoken and having worked with majority of the Fortune 1000 companies across the world, which we have realized many of the countries are in different stages of their own set of workforce transformation, and some of them are at a very matured stage in a com-shaped skills framework as well. So it's very essential to align with that, and that is why the certification value becomes really important. So this is from the value of IT certification report, and majority of the organization professional believe in the value of certification because it provides a validation about the career paths you are taking, the actual jobs which are coming across, and why these jobs remain as the hottest job for the future of work as well. And that is how we talk about when the future of work. So it is some of the experts from the leaders from Microsoft, Google, who have mentioned it, that it is going to be more digital in nature, more flexible in nature, more collaborative in nature, and it will only happen if you will get those hybrid skills as part of your own transformation journey. So that is why we have partnered with NTUC Learning Hub in a very strategic manner, and they are providing this set of guidance, this set of programs that helps the organization not just transform, but be successful transformation within their own upskilling, reskilling journey, aligning it with their business agility, which I think sometimes becomes a misaligned in terms of the actual goal that needs to be done. So hopefully this set of guidance is useful for the organization. And we, from our organization side, we call it as community as a service, because we believe in providing various resources easily accessible through our partners as well as through our community, so that it provides those set of continuous guidance along with continuous learning as well. So with that note, we would like to thank you, and feel free to reach out for any set of additional questions you may have later on after this session as well. And if you have any questions now, happy to take them as well.
Do you want to post?
Yeah, so since there are no questions, so we can understand sometimes it's a lot of information that may be overwhelming, but sure enough, the presentation slides would be available after this session as well. So feel free to reach out to the NTUC Learning Hub team or to us for anything which you would like to know more from the DevOps Institute perspective or a certification perspective. We would be happy to provide that. And once again, thanks for the opportunity to engage, and definitely looking forward to working more closely in order to shape the human transformation journey as part of your respective organization. Thank you so much.
Right.